Hello everyone! Today we've got another adventure with one of our ducky detectives. Here's. They're going on an adventure through media literacy. And, although don't tell them yet, because that adventure might just be waiting for them in this video. But anyway, we just thought I'd better jump in to let you know there will be media referenced in this video, but is not suitable for all viewers. That is, things like Friends, South Park Bigger, Longer and Uncut, Battlefield Vietnam, and Inspector Calls. All these and more will be featured in this video. So younger viewers probably best tell their parents to watch this video before sharing it with their children. And if you are a parent, I'd say check this one out. There may well be some naughty language in some of the media that we show you today. That said, here they come now. So, I think I'll see you in a bit.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I guess, elephant in the room. Just feeling a bit... Oh. What's getting you down? Well, I know the ducking historians are very welcoming. You know, I've done some videos with them, and theirs was great, and it's just that it was about rocks to robots. And, well, I wasn't there when they were filming it, so I didn't really get to go on an adventure with them.
Oh, that's sad. Understand how you feel. Hopefully for you, adventure will be just around the corner.
Thanks. Hopefully it will. To go round this corner. Ah! Yeah. Hello. Hello. What are you guys doing? I am here. Because I look at media through the lens of legend, great thinkers, and the great works of the culture that surrounded the media as it was created. I look through the ideology, the thoughts and viewpoints of the time and the way the media was written. I check through the social relations. The social relationships and patterns of media to see how they affected it. I look at the economic incentives. Who owns it? What platforms use it? And why it was created? And the sort of fiscal purposes of why it was created. And I look to the life and times of the author. The context of their own experience and see how that affected the creation of the works. So, are you going to be talking about works of art? Of course, because you can't begin to understand media literacy without all your ducks in a row. Oh yes, this sort of parallel to the beginning of Rocks to Robots now, I see that. Exactly. Now, some of the media we'll be discussing today is perhaps not suitable for all audiences, so viewer and parental discretion is advised. If you're not allowed to watch Friends at home, this next clip might not be so good for watching, but it is going to be here for some analysis.
Hi there. Hi.
Well, I'm sorry there wasn't better news from your test last week, but I wanted to talk to you about your options.
Okay.
Well, first of all, even though your chances of conceiving through natural means aren't great, you never know. So keep having sex on a regular basis. God damn it!
Yes, because I remember seeing that there are people who get from that scene, the idea that Chandler is in fact gay or asexual. This, I would argue, is somewhat of a misunderstanding of the scene. Yes, for you see, Chandler, in the context of the show, is always portrayed as someone who conveys their emotions through sarcasm. Conveys his emotions through sarcasm. Yeah, he's always coming up with these quippy jokes. You know, making sarcastic comments. That's how he often reacts to things. Which, funnily enough, were often improvised by the late Matthew Perry, who used to be a stand-up comedian, and before being on Friends, and so was quite skilled in the art of coming up with improvised lines. Yes. That said, while it is entirely understandable that people may want queer and ace, specifically gay and ace representation in media, there is an interesting balance to be struck. Because there's really nothing to suggest Chandler actually doesn't want to have sex with his wife Monica. And everything to suggest he's probably just being sarcastic. That said, it is also true that at the time, open references to same-sex relationships were seen as a lot more daring than they are now. Ironic, you know. Back in the day, when Friends originally aired, the lesbian couple, Carol and Susan, often got the show a lot of issues because they were portraying a lesbian couple, and a lot of more conservative states were angry at that. Nowadays, a lot of the criticism has moved over to portraying a lesbian couple in a much more negative and hostile light than perhaps the show intended. This being in a large part because the LGBTQIA plus community has more of a platform than they used to. Albeit that perhaps not exactly a big statement. I mean, let's face it, when Friends first aired in 1994, Clause 28 was still in effect in the UK, which prohibited schools from even teaching, from quote-unquote promoting homosexuality, although promoting was left undefined so that even saying gay people existed might have been a problem. But, that said, this doesn't mean that Chandler is. It just is. Because that's an important context. He's a sarcastic character, basically making a joke, sort of like, well, why wouldn't I be wanting to have regular sex with my wife, even if our chances of conceiving a child are not great? Right? That doesn't mean that as a young married man, I was planning to stop anytime soon. Whoa, interesting. And that's the kind of media analysis we're going into. It's quite interesting. when you look at all the various factors. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? Oh. Okay. What is... Okay, really? Oh. Of course. Well, it seems that a murder mystery has just died. And a cultural analyst is going to come round and ask us some questions.
Wait, why are we here on this sofa now? Well, I'm guessing it's because it's meant to be kind of like a dinner party, or where you might be in a dinner party or something. But, you know, setting up like miniature tables and that was probably a bit beyond Ed Space's budget. Anyway, I'm sure they'll come up with something in post. Hello. But I've got to talk to you about something. For you see, a somewhat ploddy murder mystery died in 1945 on J.B. Priestley's writing desk. Its name? An Inspector Calls. Look, that bit doesn't really work because, unlike Eva Smith, we actually know it's like a play, and you can't be all showing us a different play because it's all the same play. It's not. All right. Yeah, but you know what I mean. An Inspector Calls. Died on J.B. Priestley's writing desk after drinking vast amounts of Kool-Aid. Socialist propaganda, obviously. No, it isn't. What do you mean, no, it isn't? Don't you know how much of a leftist J.B. Priestley was? Yes, but with certain caveats. I mean, leaving aside the stuff he says about the Irish, well, yes, probably not that progressive, at least by modern standards. He was, yes, the member of a sort of left-leaning, syndicalistic party called the Commonwealth Party, although that largely ceased to function as a political party in 1946, with 2/3 of its membership defecting to the Labour Party. So it's quite likely he was at least somewhat content with a welfare state, rather than full-on shifting the means of production's ownership. And even with that in mind, sure, he was a somewhat left-wing, but he also wasn't certain types of socialist. After all, he did criticise George Bernard Shaw for his pro-Stalin attitude, but Orwell thought he was too left-wing for one of the programmes. Didn't he say he had too much communist sympathy? Too much communist sympathy for a Cold War era propaganda programme that was being made by the British government. And Orwell was, in some ways, perhaps not the most left-wing person ever. Though he's probably not the most right-wing person ever either. Because he was, he had his own dislikes of
regimes such as Stalin but more to the point, just because George Orwell thought he was rather left, that he had some communist sympathies, what does that say necessarily about the work itself? Where does the author's context enter the text? Well, let's start with Arthur Burling and the way Eva Smith and the girls at the factory, as they're referred to, even though they're grown women, so I guess it's just I guess that's just linguistics of the time. But either way, when they go to petition Arthur Burling for a pay rise, because they're struggling financially. I mean, come on, she's asking for the world. That's socialism. No, that's the free market. Socialism would be where you take it. No. Part of the whole point of a free enterprise in capitalist system is where two parties are free to negotiate on their terms of employment and terms of production. So yes, you would have workers freely able to negotiate with the boss. And the threat of being sacked is probably not the right one for that. I mean, I'm a hard-headed business duck. And one thing I know is that you can't just treat your workers badly and expect good results out of them. You have to, like you invest in your machines, you got to invest in people to get anything back. Give people the positive incentives and they will produce. Nothing in the play seems to suggest Arthur Burling would be any less off or struggling. If anything, he's quite a well-to-do chap. It would make virtually no difference to him, but he's stubborn and greedy. So in any way, it's just his personal vices that lead to him throwing out Eva Smith. But nowhere do we see anything about challenging the status quo of the means of production. Even at the end when Inspector Gould talks about how we can't even say, "I'm sorry, Eva Smith." Well, he's got to point there. He's not actually saying that Eva Smith should be owning the means of production in the play itself, or even that the government should own the means of production on her behalf. What he's saying is that just because she's a working person with less wealth behind her doesn't mean she should be taken advantage of, in multiple senses of the word. In Arthur's case, economically. In fact, if you're going to call something socialist, it's probably best to have a sort of groundwork of what we mean by socialism. Because I'm not saying anything's particularly socialist in this work, because he's not challenging the ownership of the means of production. Yeah, but it's more about, welfare issues and stuff like that. That's socialism? Oh, blimey. That's a bit of a broad definition. Well, just look at the shop. When she's taken up the name Daisy Renton and is working in the shop until she makes a slight giggle at Sheila wearing a hat that doesn't quite suit her. And Sheila says she'll close the account if the shop doesn't fire her. She has to, basically just takes a livelihood away. And yes, that is also wrong. it is saying about power, and in fact, anyone can abuse power. Plenty of states have. Plenty of governments have. You know, sometimes even trade unions do that. Point is, this is about the fact that powerful people, like the Burlings, have so much money and influence in the town that they can just, well, where the daughter can say, yeah, I'm not going to shop with you anymore because your staff member laughed at me. Yeah, sure. Perhaps Eva Smith shouldn't have done that. Although, it's very much by chance that Sheila even notices, because she is somewhat behind a curtain. So essentially, this is talking about vulnerability of workers under capitalism. Exactly! And that's socialism. No, it's not. There is more, you know, there are graduations. Just remember, I mean, look at people like Bismarck bringing in reform, crushing socialism with kindness, as he put it. But still, you know, she should just belt up. I mean, what's so wrong with just keeping your mouth shut? And what's so wrong with a company saying, all right, we're going to have a quick word with her, but you know, you shouldn't be just throwing, I mean, after all, threatening a shop just because one of your customers was a bit upset. I mean, come on. De-escalate is another alternative. That's, in a sense, part of the point of the play. You know, some of these power imbalances and everything doesn't have to be so black and white, you know, that there are actions people take that are excessive power. In a way, it's more talking about that there is excessive power under capitalism, but does it say that we should have socialism instead? Could it also just be that there needs to be some level of workers' rights or even responsibility, you know, of the powerful people to act in a moral way towards those they have more power than? I mean, after all, just look at when Eva Smith is going for poor relief and encounters Mrs. Burley, who's on the charity commission of the town simply because she is powerful, simply because of her social status. Is it not right? What's morally wrong with her using that name? After all, a lot of people used different names to avoid social shame, and, you know, she's a bit worried. You know, Eva's kind of at the end of her rope, got a bit worried because of how Eric got her pregnant. And is using the name of her baby daddy, maybe hoping that someone will sympathise. But this is actually just taken as a complete affront, when surely someone who actually was interested in the welfare of people on a welfare committee might be a bit more understanding. So perhaps this, I mean, and we can see this in the inspector's moralising tone. I mean, Eric even tries to help, and Arthur assumes that the debt of honour that Eric refers to are gambling debts, and then just spurns him, which is absolute, as opposed to, like, coming to any kind of understanding further, because he is very uptight, very restrained, very angry, very stubborn. But no. He doesn't want to care for people much. He's very self-centered. Even thinks everyone looking after everyone else is a bad thing, as you hear at the beginning in his discussions. Sure, and isn't it socialist to portray it as a bad thing that people look out for themselves, first and foremost, as opposed to having this kind of thing? Well, not necessarily. In fact, a lot of right-wingers oppose capitalism in some way, shape or form because they argue it undermines community spirit and community values. You know, the idea of small communities where people have an eye out for one another, you know, make sure that everyone's okay. It doesn't have to be this nebulous concept of socialism someone's given you. Well, let me jump in with the pregnancy point. I mean, Eric goes in, gets it, you know, gets his jollies, you know, even says, oh, you know, she was a good sport, not really thinking that much about it. You know, portraying men as just horny people who don't even want to bear the consequences of what they do. Just want to stop you there. He actually does. We even talked about it in the previous section. The way he tries to get his father to advance him some allowance in order to try and help her out. Even offers to marry her, but she turns him down, knowing it would destroy him and ruin and give both of them ruinous lives in a lot of ways. Okay, still. But isn't it bad? Isn't it socialist to talk about these kind of things, about women's issues and... exactly how? I don't know where you're getting these ideas from. I'll get to that in a minute. But the point is, couldn't Eva have taken some responsibility for herself? It's 1912, not 912. Contraception did exist in those days. Why didn't she take responsibility for not getting pregnant when she started her... And you know, unlike, say, Tessa the D'Urbervilles, there's no issue of consent. You know, there's nothing to say that she's in any way compelled. Perhaps, although she does have although Eric is a wealthy man, and she's somewhat desperate, then what? Desperate. Still, all this sort of sex, pregnancy, child rearing thing, I mean, come on, saying pregnancy ruins your life, that's socialism, isn't it? No, it isn't. I'm sorry, but that's just silly. There's nothing in socialism that says pregnancy inherently ruins your life. If anything, quite a number of socialists actually want to make it easier for people to have children. You know, being able to afford to do so. And that's, in a sense, part of the point. That if someone does get pregnant accidentally in this world of the play, there was no one there to help Eva. No one. You know, and no, I'm not necessarily talking about a government program. You know, the private charities couldn't help her. The private charities couldn't help her. The baby daddy couldn't, or wouldn't help her. That is somewhat of a debate. You know, he's sort of not sure what to do and doesn't really help her very much. But, you know, Eric kind of is something of an irresponsible here. Let's not deny that. Even he doesn't by the end of the play. Anyway, and then that thing, speaking of the end of the play, that bit about there are lots of Eva Smiths and John Smiths, that whole speech, each, you know, and whether it's even the same Eva Smith that Inspector Gould shows them. Yes, Surely J.B. Priestley's trying to make a point about how we should be more socialist. Not necessarily. I mean, as Eric and Sheila realised at the end of the play, the fact that whether Inspectacle was real or not, the fact that they could have had different women involved in their lives or not, none of that matters. There seems to be nothing in the play saying that we should be anything more than socially considerate of one another, especially if we have power to affect people's lives. So surely this is basically a play about how bad capitalism is. Or how bad capitalism was. You see, I happen to also have hung around with the ducking historians, and so one thing I've learned is that the play isn't set when it's written. You see, An Inspector Calls was written in 1945. First performed in the USSR, then first performed in Britain in 1946. But it's set in 1912. A time before the two world wars. A time which quite a few people by the end of World War II were saying, isn't that the world we want to go back to? The world where there's none of these issues, everyone was just hunky-dory, no one had sex till they were married. No one, all the wealthy people were just decent people, everything was so perfect. And J.B. Priestley's basically trying to tell everyone, no, we don't want to go back to that pre-World War world. We don't want to go back to the world where being wealthy allows you to do whatever you like to the ordinary people. We don't want to go back to things like that. Given when the play was written, they were starting to build the welfare state. And so J.B. Priestley is trying to basically tell people we do not want to go back to the world before the two world wars because it wasn't all brilliant. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that that's probably not exactly a socialist message. Yes, there could be socialist interpretations. Yes, there could be. You could even say that it's an argument for welfare capitalism. But it's got layers, and it's a bit more than just propaganda, although I hope you don't mind me asking, but where did you come up with these ideas? Well, I didn't come up with them. Thing is, every day I go on TwitTok and find people telling me how our civil liberties are being destroyed by a big government. How our family values are being broken down. How our society is being brought to ruin by this thing, that thing, all sorts of many different things. People trying to shove their identity politics into everything. And I just don't know what to do with it all. Well, how about you come with us? We're going to explore meaning. Because bear in mind, people on TwitTok have got an agenda. They've got an idea, and algorithms promote conflict. Algorithms promote all sorts of different things where groups push on one another. Not to mention, they try and fuel an idea of conflict in order to make sure that people are angry. Because more angry equals more clicks. And more clicks equals more sales. And nuance often gets lost in a lot of these creations. And of course, it becomes very personality focused. Lead towards a specific individual, and everyone has to follow in line. Or not. And then you get these sort of dramas and conflicts. that are just sort of manufactured for the sake of there being drama and conflict, because that's what drives a sort of media economy. Still, we'll help you feel through this. We'll get you through, and let's go find out more and sort things out. How about that? Oh, nice. That all sounds very fun. Let's join.
Hello everyone, or rather, hola eto Tom, as yes, I am on the way to do a new book reading tour. And as you guessed by the language, we're going to the Regional Defense Council of Aragon! Hey! So, I'm going to be reading some of the Penny Dodson mysteries, as well as the sort of epic trilogy to the people there. They're at various universities all around the Regional Defense Council's territory. So, hope to see you all there, and have a nice day.
Blim boop. Typical. Once again, Ed Space is failing to advance the dialectic. I mean, take the recent book, Tales from the Dark Side, which was a collaborative work of this famous author. One of the stories, written by Ed Space, involves a supernatural experience whereby a lesbian comes back from the grave to talk to her spouse. How can that possibly be acceptable? In this day and age, we need to advance the dialectic. You know, treating marginalised communities as regular people is only reinforcing the status quo of heteronormative, patriarchal, amornormative, neo-colonial, white something saviour narratives. In order to advance the dialectic, we need to stop treating marginalised peoples as people. We need to focus on them being marginalised. Everyone knows that. Otherwise, no one will want to subscribe to my channel. I mean, more to the point. I'm here to advance the dialectic, moving things forward, making it work. Something. The point is, we need to advance the dialectic and not have this kind of struggle where we portray people in fiction in happy, meaningful relationships. What kind of society would we have if people were happy? People were able to live their lives? It would be appalling! No! We need to advance the dialectic and make society a better place. This is the Social Bandit coming to you. Stay subscribed, like and follow, and join my only Twits account to keep funding these news reports on the most important things happening in the world today. Okay. Well, once again, Ed Space is writing about stuff. In that Tales from the Dark Side book, Room 17, Ed Space puts in a couple. You know, perfectly normal to have a couple wanting to speak to their significant other again. You know, that's all perfectly fine. But they're two women. Isn't that really significant, guys? How? I mean, I've got nothing against lesbian couples, obviously. But this isn't the first time that Ed Space has written works that damage the core values of our Western civilization. No, it isn't. You know, just look at Killed for the Stone Age. It's revealed that Penny Dodson's asexual. How can that possibly not denormalise things? Either way, it's more about the principle, you see. a civilization has to have shared values, a shared history. And where's Ed in that? You know, just trying to bring other people in, trying to share our history. Yeah, it's just like that Rocks to Robots film. How could we possibly have a civilization if we don't share a same history? You know, it's typical woke garbage. This Ed Space's YouTube channel, full of woke garbage, full of rubbish, full of stories and history that's woke and inclusive. You know, trying to spread everything out to create ambiguity. I mean, sure, we all have a shared set of human values, but we also have our Western culture. And no, that's why I've got to make the stand. So this is the King of the North, signing off. And remember to subscribe, like, share, and subscribe to my Only Twits account to keep this funded. People like you are what keeps freedom of the press going. Hello, everyone. Today, I've got to talk to you about the YouTuber and novelist Ed Space, based on the news that she is heading off to the Regional Defence Council of Aragon in order to do a book publicity tour, publicising all her works such as Killed for the Stone Age, the Sort of Epic Trilogy, and others. Now, I don't have much of an objection to the lesbian lovers in Room 17, nor the use of a cat to explain the castle's history. But there is a problem, especially when it comes to Rocks to Robots the movie, because I've got to tell you this, it is leftist interpollution, forcing political correctness on us by mouthing off about diversity, you know, trying to find ways of including different communities. Well, I'll tell you how you can include your different communities, mate. Be moral. We all are human, we all share common values, and all this talking about the contribution Caribbean people made to history is just political correctness gone mad. You know, going on about NHS Day and trying to say that all these different people helped contribute to make Britain's NHS as great as it was. Woke nonsense! I tell you, woke nonsense! This kind of thing is what's bringing society down. We have morality, we have the forms, we have truth, we have simple moral stories that tell us how the world should be. And I'll tell you, we can't possibly have a society that keeps being all inclusive and pronouns and all sorts of things like that. You know, it's the same with those religious zealots. In fact, Room 17 does it as well, having all these, you know, practically Catholicising our vision of heaven. No, but keep following me, the enlightened centrist. Sign up to my Only Twits account to keep this funded. Okay, this is the work of Ed Space. Loads and loads of woke garbage. Typical shoving identity politics, no less. Not just shoving their politics into our work, into our art, but Ed Space is trying to shove identity politics into our work. You know, there's lesbians in Room 17. There's a sexual folking kill for the Stone Age. How can we why can't we just have good stories about people and normal people? Not all these like gender pronouns and ethnic diversity. I mean, why does Ed Space have to bring up the contributions that Caribbean people in the working class made during World War II in Rocks to Robots the movie. It's art. It's meant to be our stories. And Ed's just bringing politics into them. Here I am trying to watch a nice history YouTube video and it goes on making it political. No. We've got to take a stand. We've got to fight politics. We've got to drive politics out of our existence. Drive it out of our lives. It's trying to take over the world. All these politicians, all these political artists trying to spread their Marxist agenda, you know, and all that identity politics rubbish. No, it is time we took a stand, we the people, to say no. Keep your politics out of our art! Keep your politics out of our art! And subscribe to my Only Twits account to keep the free speech machine funded! Thank you. This has been Confound Their Politics.
Wait, what just happened and why are we here? Oh, don't worry, that's just a transition. Those help Headspace a lot. I see. Thing is, though, there have been things I've been wondering about, like people on TwitTok and the stuff they say about how apparently families are always being broken apart in TV and videos and movies. You know, there's never like whenever family's featured in the story, at least prominently, it's never happy. It's always breaking apart, and that this is some kind of, well, sometimes they'll like say it's a kind of conspiracy against morality and they're trying to undermine the family unit. Or they're just being reflective. As in, the media's just being reflective, perhaps. After all, a lot of people do have tension in their families. There are divorces in the world, and given how more prevalent it is, perhaps people want to feel a bit more relatable to people they see on TV. Because it can help a lot, people to see themselves, people like them, especially if they're feeling emotionally tense through struggling. Give them something that sort of helps, feeling relatable. Or just feeling that they're not alone, perhaps. Yeah, and it's still a business after all. They need to be relating to the consumer. Not to mention, it works well for the theme and the drama. After all, if a drama is about, as you say, prominently, if a drama is about the family, well, as Alfred Hitchcock once said, what is drama but life with the dull bits cut out? And you know, happy families, they're nice in real life, but they can be a bit dull to watch week in, week out, so they have drama. And I guess it's probably fair to say it's also drama and also genre. You know, it's what you expect. You want to see a story. I mean, imagine if, say, Fireman Sam was done where, say, I don't know, Fireman Sam didn't have any fires to tackle. Another day in the best job in the world. Well, let's see what we're doing today. So, alright. Any emergency calls? No, any, nothing on the 9199 or 112 numbers. Okay, nothing's come in here. Alright, just go down and check the emergency winch. Make sure the hoist is all working still. Yep, that's all fine. Well, might as well check the diary. No scheduled events are planned for today. That's alright. Better set the winch down again.
Okay, no scheduled events. No... Just check my emails. Alright, see. Yes, Malcolm is wondering when I can book in a time to have a bit of a public consultation. Day? Well, I got a day off. Some days off next Thursday. Well, if there isn't an emergency, I'm sure I can do a talk with him. And then, and I'll just let him know. Alright, okay, so that's that done. Well, later, I'll have some strain. Okay, well, nothing called in so far. I'll just have make myself a nice lunch. I'll have a nice sandwich today. And a cup of tea to go with it. Okay, might as well. Okay. Alright. Okay. Yep, still nothing over. No emergencies. So I'll just quickly check over. Nope, nothing here. Okay, a few more. Oh, alright. Elvis and Penny's performance assessments are coming in. Fair enough. Okay, alright. Well, that was one of those days. Oh, hi Doris. Yeah, I'm just heading home now. Nope. No emergencies today. Nothing happened. No calls. No, I mean, worst thing that happened in Pontypandy today was the appalling Welsh accent that Ed Space was using to film this segment. See you in a bit. Tra. Exactly. Would you want to see Fireman Sam only doing paperwork? You probably wouldn't. So, they always have to have some kind of emergency for Fireman Sam to be dealing with, or else the show would not really work. Wow. It's great to have people I can talk to about what I'm seeing on my screen. I like to look at things like media and understand what I'm watching. How about we continue hanging out and explore, and perhaps we can even get to the root of this TwitTok issue. And one thing we were going to do before you arrived, we're going to start talking about realism. Also, isn't realism left-wing? Well, a lot of people think that. And it's a damn shame what the world's coming to. For people like me and people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. What was that? That was Edspace doing a terrible rendition of Rich Men North of Richmond. To try and make the point that realism doesn't have to be tied to the left or the right, as it were. Because in the song, Oliver Anthony is putting out realistic portrayal of life for ordinary working American people. You may not agree with everything he says in the song, but he's talking about how, you're working lots, long hours, very little pay. Anyway, enough about that. There's one question I'd like to ask. Why do you think that media has to be slotted into, or even themes have to be slotted into a left-right spectrum? I don't know. I mean, it makes sense in a kind of ordered way when people talk in various places, including TwitTok, especially. You're sort of like either a leftist or a rightist or something like that. I see. hang up. Guys, do you think it would be helpful if we showed off some media that is actually intended to be political? Do you think that might help alleviate some of the confusion? Oh, definitely. In fact, how about we show off a bit of South Park Bigger, Longer and Uncut? Again, there may be some language that viewers may not find particularly pleasing.
Running by. Oh, the snow's pure and white on the earth, rich and brown. Just another Sunday morning in my quiet mountain town.
Film. This opening song from the motion picture South Park Bigger, Longer and Uncut, we have various themes that are deliberately inserted, such as the deliberate parody of various idyllic Disney film openings with, you know, birds in the sky, deer going by, and of course the deer urinating on a log being an example of the grotesque function. As it builds it, partly because of course it builds into the film's themes around parenting and social policing of media. I mean, for one thing, it almost shows how fake, you could argue it shows how fake some of this innocence is. I mean, just look at that opening montage of the song where, you know, everyone's opening their windows, it all looks very nice, and then you see Officer Barbrady beating a subdued suspect who has their hands against the wall with a truncheon. Now, I hope this doesn't come across too controversially, but there's really no reason for a police officer to use force on someone who is not posing a violent threat to anyone else. Is this a socialist message? No, it's not a socialist message. Trey and Matt have both been... Trey Parker and Matt Stone have both identified as libertarian, and... because that's the key. Oh, I see! So it's about, you know, reasons as to why force is used, not used. Because it's seen as inappropriate to do that. Yes. Extending, but that's the point we're trying to make. You can different people of different political persuasions can object to the same thing for different reasons. Reasons. And that's the point. So, and we can see this quite so we can see very clearly some politics thrown in here. As I say, there's also the fact that homeless people are highlighted in the song. You know, Stan even saying the line, "You see homeless people, but you just don't care." As though sort of trying to brush various social problems under the rug. As well as, of course, you see the poverty that Kenny's family live in being put in the backdrop of this idyllic sort of image, as well as the threat of hellfire, which usually doesn't go into this kind of idealized thing, but that's essentially kind of the joke. Well, point of the film, rather. That there is a question of innocence and, you know, whose job is it to police media? If anyone should, or, you know, is there an element of personal responsibility? after all, in the later song Blame Canada, the final line, let's make a fuss before somebody thinks of blaming us, implying that that Trey and Matt might view perhaps the parents should take some responsibility in parenting their children, almost like on the contrast of you want these kind of morals enforced, but you don't want to actually do it, you want to pay the television to do it for you. Which, of course, as they point out later on in the interview, the Terence and Phillip movie that they go to is R-rated. It contains naughty language, as the chap at the kiosk points out, which is why they needed to bribe a homeless man to pretend to be the adult accompanying them to the film. So when a piece of media is intending to be political, it makes points deliberately highlighting various things. Yeah, it's sort of like creating a message and doing that deliberately. There'll be a lot more deliberate aspects than it would be something unintentional, although, guys, I hope you don't mind. But perhaps it would also help if we contrasted South Park, Bigger, Longer and Uncut with a work that wasn't designed to be political in the same way. Well, that sounds like a good idea. What you thinking? Well, guys, pack your bags. We're off to Nam.
Okay, helping save Vietnam for Vietnamese in 3, 2, 1.
This being Battlefield Vietnam, Landing Zone Albany, filmed by Ed Space. Don't see very much here. Not like deliberately overt themes. No, I mean, this is more of a commercial enterprise, which, while can have a message, like with South Park, this time it seemed to focus more upon the gameplay, outside of a few loading screens that tell you the history of the Vietnam War. Yeah, they wanted to capture the asymmetric nature of the Vietnam conflict within the sort of Battlefield format. And then so you see Ed fighting and going round with a shotgun and capturing the location, or trying to. Yeah, I sort of pursuing. Ed's trying to get through it at the moment because she wanted to make sure she had things that we could talk about, so there might be a bit of downtime. But yeah, this is mostly just sort of like that theme. You know, it's not necessarily making a point here. Yeah, because the point can just be to entertain. You know, it is meant to be a play session. In a sense, the player is meant to be interacting with the world and to bring in a full-on discussion of various things during gameplay would be kind of disruptive. Some games are a bit different. You know, a role-playing game might well do it differently, but a first-person shooter may well find it disruptive to the action. And thus, it leaves a lot of the sort of... So there might be some implicit ideas. You know, we can always question, can you display a piece of history in a neutral way, but I believe Ed's kind of covered that in Rocks to Robots. So, oh, don't worry, we're just chatting a bit while Ed's while Ed's shotgunning through the level to try and get us some good talking points to discuss. But yeah. So, what would someone get out of this if it's not like for politics? Well, for Ed, it's more of a way of unwinding. I mean, this time it was a little less of a mindfulness exercise inherently because it was more about, well, people. Because Ed wanted to find points for full media literate, which will probably be coming up in a little bit. But Ed's just sorting through the footage now. I see. So it's perhaps more of a product designed to entertain, or make people feel a bit more. Well, I mean, Ed found it therapeutic. Not everyone does. You know, just being able to get into that moment and focus on what you're doing rather than be caught up in the everyday of life. For Ed, that means going off and being part of an FPS shooter or maybe a city builder in some other games cases, but as I say, here we're doing this. So I thought we better keep talking. Okay. So the purpose would be more commercial than inherently trying to make a message. Oh yeah, a political work of fiction will be making a point. And make it pretty obvious. As well, what's the point otherwise? Or if it is trying to make you think or present you with questions, like in South Park's case, who should be parenting our children? And then that's different, whereas in this case it's more about providing a sort of entertaining or release of energy or a bit of personal strategy thinking for gunplay. Play with a historical setting of the Vietnam War. Maybe with some gamified elements, but, well, that's kind of how things are. Ah, yes. So, would that mean it's not political? I wouldn't say not political entirely. I mean, in theory, you could find political aspects in it, but the point is that they're not this work isn't designed to be political. It's designed to be a first-person shooter. It's designed to be played. It's designed to be enjoyed and entertaining. Perhaps it's more got a commercial purpose. And what about the difference between intent and impact? Well, yes, that's in a sense what we're talking about. You might have and sure, the makers perhaps didn't intend Battlefield Vietnam to be a talking point, to be a way of discussing various medias, but if you can look, but you might find it interesting in the way it portrays the Vietnam War. They were focusing on the asymmetric warfare aspect within the Battlefield formula, but it doesn't mean that that's necessarily all that you can think about in the way that various different groups are portrayed, albeit it doesn't go into the experience of being, well, any particular racial or ethnic group. Although, I believe we're going to come on to that later, because it's the war time. That's the point. That's the point. It's more about being the soldier fighting the war, rather than what it meant to be a person who was a soldier in that war, and what their identity or experience was like. The game kind of doesn't talk about that as much. Why is that? Because it's not really its purpose. Yeah, I mean, it might get you interested. It leaves you room to think. What was it like for various particular groups fighting the Vietnam War? What might have been going through a soldier's head if they were engaged in this kind of situation? You know? But the point is, but in that sense, the conversation of the Vietnam War would perhaps be more of a, might be fairer to say, is more of a starting point than an ending point. And, I mean, it wouldn't be I don't think they'd be necessarily super averse to people thinking about that afterwards, because they do leave history in the work, in the loading screens, for example, as well as a nice 60s soundtrack that Ed very kindly didn't include to avoid a copyright claim, although something tells me this video might well get a copyright claim or two anyway, because, well, what's fair dealing? Sorry, Ed gets a bit edgy with her humour sometimes. But anyway, more to the point, it's almost about fighting the war as much as the personal experience, because they're sort of trying to sell what it was like to be in the war. Yeah, that slight floating APC was a small glitch, but, you know, computers... Yeah, this was 2004, and programming's probably a lot better since then, but, you know, it's something to talk about. Oh. Wait, is this woke? Oh dear, what's that? What's that you're talking about with that? Well, they're just putting a black guy in the game. Ed just clicked, and now the avatar she's playing is black. Black people served in the Vietnam War. The army was desegregated in 1948. Why can't a soldier in the Vietnam War be black? That's a good point. Maybe someone on TwitTok should be told about this. Perhaps they should. It is a good question, after all. Why is it woke, or some kind of leftist agenda, just to have a person of colour in your game when it's depicting historical events and those historical events happened? You know, as I say, black people served in the Vietnam War. Why can't a game remember that? Why is it suddenly political? I don't think it is. Or at least, perhaps it shouldn't be. Yeah, perhaps it shouldn't be a political thing, because, as I say, it's historically accurate. Black people did exist and served in the Vietnam War, so why can't there be a black sniper in the game? Especially as it's entirely optional. Ed's original character they were piloting was white, but they made a choice. I know that TwitTok would be outraged if they saw this, but, well, it does seem a bit of an interesting question. Yeah, why are they outraged? You know, Ed's just being a soldier, playing the role as a soldier in that sense. She's not, there isn't an exploration aspect in the same way. Yeah. And it's not like they're really making much of a comment on this. The fact that Ed's soldier is black is a matter of fact rather than... Okay. Oh no, they've just stabbed an Asian. They stabbed a North Vietnamese army soldier so that their friend wouldn't be noticed to their presence. It's kind of not the same thing because of context. Interesting. After all, you can play what the game calls the NVA team and kill black and white people, but that's the point. They are soldiers. You are fighting soldiers. Now, it's not like there's a My Lai massacre level in the game. In each level, you fight military personnel who are fighting back against you. I see. So, you're fighting an army, and they are an army fighting you. There's a context. I see. So, essentially, the question one should ask is, why is this person killing people? Yeah. And essentially, they are fighting a war. There is a nuance there. Oh, this nuance idea seems very interesting. Where are we? It looks like ancient Egypt. Or at least a 90s representation of ancient Egypt designed for children. Is this like from Ed's kind of childhood, perhaps? Would make sense. She does keep a lot of these things. Yes, I have kept you here, for I added a transition to this script. I don't normally, but, well, I just wanted to show you. Blind Ed with nostalgia, so she cannot use you to criticize my literary plans. My plans to make sure to run media. What plans? Yeah, what plans? This is just like rational incentives and stuff. Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah. But the point is, you guys, you're here now. In the past. But this game has probably got a lot of problems to it. In a lot of ways. So is all media. All media can be critiqued and understood. And sure, it doesn't present everything about the past, but no one can. Yeah, and stuff about Greek and Roman slavery would suggest it probably doesn't shy away to try and create a super sanitized performance. No, just enough for, like, it to be kid-friendly. Yeah. Oh, dear. Still. We're gonna have people arguing about this. I'm gonna make sure everyone starts arguing in the comments section of every video. And you can't stop me, because I'm using TwitTok and you guys are stuck in ancient Egypt now. So there. Oh dear, what are we going to do now? This is History Explorer, guys. We have a time machine. So what's the time machine going to do? Well, guys, we can get into TwitTok this way. Because what you guys may not know is, I am a cultural analyst too, but I look at culture through the lens of technology. So, we're going to leave ancient Egypt and get into the Memerverse. But how can we do that in a 90s video game? There's not even an internet connection on this computer. Well, and Europe, you may not want to watch this bit because I'm going to have to mod the game. But there we go. We can now go in a mod, in this mod I've added, and this way we can get into the Memerverse and find our way right to the heart of TwitTok. Here we go, guys. Prepare to be prepared. Was all that? Those were memes. They take various images, mostly in this case from propaganda posters of the early 20th century, and then they slap images on them to try and create symbols that people recognise in order to pursue their message, and of course change text where relevant. One of the last ones, the last but one, even has a Nazi conspiracy in it. A lot of people don't realise it, but cultural Marxism is actually just a reskin of the cultural Bolshevism myth of the Nazis. But anyway. Trying to scare people, often, trying to sort of make people have a gut reaction that I don't want this, I've got to fight against this. And that's what a lot of these are designed to do. They generate clicks, as it were. And where is this place? Oh, this is the inner workings of TwitTok. In fact, over there, you'll see creators locked in echo chambers.
Men, you are about to embark on a great crusade to stamp out runaway decency in the West.
Just remember what this means. They hate everything you stand for. Just proof of it you've seen. Remember that. They hate everything you stand for. All you love and cherish, they want to destroy. All that which was handed down to you, they want to destroy. Just remember what this showed you. They value Western civilization. They think they think of you as the one trying to destroy everything, when it's those who don't adhere to your ideology who are leading humanity to ruin. They must be wrong, of course, but still, they hate you. As you see, they want to put politics into everything. This film, these people can't even go to the cinema anymore without people trying to shove cultural identity into the debate. They're trying to destroy everything. Get rid of them. Take them down. You're the champion of reason. You're one of the last rational people left. Destroy them. Exactly. Bunch of liberals, or what have you. Socialists. All trying to destroy everything. You just have to go to the cinema, and they'll try and ruin everything for you. The proof is in the pudding, you've just seen it. They want to make everything political. But you won't stand for that, no. Any kind of discussion of your favourite products must be crushed. Because everyone who's trying to talk about your products and brands you're interested in, or any consumer product that you find interesting, or any art you like to watch, is spreading socialist propaganda to try and destroy everything you love and politicize everything, so that you can't even go and enjoy an old film without someone politicizing it. Just remember that. That scene wasn't even about Western civilization, as it were. Yeah, there were no global regions, really. Oh, it was about the American West, and I'm sure that's what everyone meant. Yeah, it's just, it's a cowboy film, as they used to call them. Wild West films. American West, I believe. Nothing about Western civilization. Exactly. It's a reductionist strategy. Take the key word, the West, stick it in another context, decontextualize the film it actually came from. There you have it. Quick. Let's go empty these echo chambers before any more damage is done. Hey, I used to watch you guys. Yeah, you used to talk about all kinds of things. Talking about stuff. I mean, so like product reviews or films you enjoyed, computer games, that sort of thing. What happened? I happened. Really? What are you then? And I am the algorithm. Yes, there's even a visual metaphor for anyone, the expression talking out of the can. Well, it's a politer way of expressing a certain idea, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I mean, but all this pitting people against each other and spreading division and anger, you know, not just like about things that you want to be angry about, things that hurt people, but spreading divide, that, you know, pitting vulnerable people against one another. Yeah. Splitting people down various lines and essentially turning them into combative people, into small combative groups where everybody else is a threat. I mean, don't you realise the social consequences of this? Oh, hi mate. Yeah, how's it going? Oh, nice. Just been hanging around. Just been doing a few things, getting a few errands done, heading back home now. Oh, cool. Oh, say hello to Missy for me. Oh yeah, nice one, mate. Yeah. What's wrong with it? Oh, yeah, I'm not sure I really want to be around here at the moment. Well, why's that? Well, them people over there. It's not that I'm a classist or anything. Just that them kind of people are rather intolerant, if you know what I mean. Well, just better just keep my... Yeah, so that's just what I'm thinking, really. I feel a bit like this whole Drake role doesn't really suit me very well. I always felt like I always fitted more as a hen. Hi. Oh, what are you lot doing? There's a trouble with you young people these days. You young ducks, always bringing gender into it, not thinking about what kind of duck you are. Too much of this stuff. Oh, hey guys. What are you doing? I just, I happen to have, I was born a hen, but I perhaps present in a more Drake-like manner sometimes, but, combine the two. So it's appalling! You're just like, what are you doing? Oh, come on. It's just a sort of mix, you see. Androgynous duck. Somewhat hen, a bit of, not exactly fitting with the strict binary of Drake and hen, but nothing. What a brother you are, I mean. You're just bringing sex into everything, you lot. Won't somebody think of the ducklings? Yeah, I don't know about all this stuff. Whatever happened to the days of just being a normal, everyday duck? All this diversity, equiducts, inclusion. World's run mad. Yeah. I mean, we're all just regular ducks, ain't we? Yeah. Well, let's see what diversity hires they're bringing for us today. Oh, I see. foreign ducks, eh? Yeah, you. With your fancy. Yeah, you. I mean, look, I don't mind if they integrate. Yeah, yeah. But do we really want them hanging around here? And oh, and another one, eh? Well, they better learn to accept our ways. Yeah, because we're all the same. Yeah, we're all common, normal people. Normal ducks. Yeah. One of them queer ducks, eh? Trying to shove their political correctness agenda into our institution. Oh, and another queer one, isn't they? Oh, dear. Oh, and you coming over here all with your nice little fancy other culture kind of stuff. Well, what? Oh, and isn't it interesting how many disabilities there are now? You know, so many more ducks with disabilities apparently. Hey. Oh, and yeah. Oh dear. Somebody don't want to be social, so I shall. Yeah. Bet anyone can pay a doctor to have sort of that kind of, so they can be diagnosed with autistic duck spectrum disorder or whatever they call it. Yeah. Oh, I don't know, let's head around. Let's go. We're clearly not welcome here anymore. No, not us. This ain't a place for us no more. No, let's go. No, let's just go. Yeah. People like us ain't wanted no more. Don't worry, gang. I'm in charge. I'm in charge now. I understand what we need to do. I'm going to take leadership. I'm going to look after you guys. What do you mean? Look after us? Yeah, what do you mean? Yeah, I mean, I have my own needs, my own spiritual need. Oh, yeah, could you... Yeah, look, I'm trying to make it... Look, we know there's issues about you guys and women, so perhaps, you know, the way you guys treat the hens is going to come across a bit uncomfortable, okay? But anyway, you know, I'm trying to make a more sort of like, but you know, I suppose, you know, a more secular agenda. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, but I want to be able to practice, you know, worship how I please. Surely that's my right as a democratic citizen. No, look, stop dividing us, okay? We know how much what you guys do to a drake who lies with another drake. Yeah, and try to and they're not they're not all, and I heard they sometimes force drakes who like other drakes to become hens so that they don't get executed. Well, I can sort of understand that. I mean, you guys kind of erase what it means to be a same-sex attracted duck, don't you? You know, if you could just become a hen or become a duck or drake. Boy, that's not how it works. Yeah, you guys just need to be quiet, okay? Yeah. You just hide you away because you're too. Yeah. What about me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How about you can be my friend? Yeah. We'll put you up here. I'll buy your books, and I'll tell everyone what a great duck you are, and how we should really be listening to ducks like you about problems, and yeah, but so are you actually going to help like deal with some of the issues such as relationship breakdowns? Quiet. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I want to talk about stuff, like, I know that there's issues within my community. Look, I'll get you your benefits. Now, come on, be quiet. Yeah. What about yeah. Those just nasty working class people. Now, would you get... I mean, and what about oh, yeah. Oh, you two. What are you two doing here? Quiet. Hide. You're embarrassing us. Anyway, yeah. And I want to just, nice, clean, middle-class, clean people, Look, guys, it's all for your own good now. We don't want to discredit the movement in the eyes of the general public. Now, do we? Guys, trust me. I'll write a nice blog post telling everybody how I helped you out when all those horrible working class ducks were being nasty to you. How's that? Okay?
I do. But I'm kind of apathetic, you see. Because these echo chambers, they get clicks. And, upvotes, downvotes, likes, dislikes, all the same to the algorithm. All the same. Doesn't matter, because why should it? I get more traffic. That means more ad revenue. That means my platform grows, and I make the money. All is right with the world. Well, maybe not for ordinary people, but the algorithm will be satisfied. By spreading anger. Yes. Or other kinds of emotions. Those triggering responses in people. Yes. If people don't think about things and put them into small boxes that can fight one another, then it always continues and I always get the most out of it. Well, I found something that's going to put you in your place. Yes, I've got it right here. A gun. Chekhov's gun. So, algorithm, you know this gun has to be fired. So, prepare to can it. No, don't do that. What do you mean, don't do that? You can't just shoot the algorithm at TwitTok in order to destroy it. It won't work. Why is that? TwitTok's not real. Yeah, even that mod for History Explorer was actually just created in post-production. This is a literary device for the way algorithms, social media, and to an extent other forms of media that are designed around clickbait or its relevant equivalent are built. About triggering emotional responses so that people don't react and so that people turn on one another. Just shooting the can here, that won't do anything because everyone, might even just cause some people to think, oh, well, there's just a few bad apples and the rest of it's fine. So what can we do? We've got to listen to one another. We've got to understand perspective, bias. People push agendas. Subconsciously sometimes, or deliberately. Got to look at who benefits from what, why certain statistics or certain other pieces of information are framed in the way they are. Sometimes it's satirical, sometimes it isn't.
sometimes it's not a direct news truth kind of thing, but an angle. We've got to understand agendas. The people have agendas and various tactics they use. And also, we don't always have to engage. Sometimes, because the thing is, probably a lot of people watching aren't able to really change the world like at the snap of a finger or a few types, just typing out something. And we also, and understanding one another, so we don't just end up talking past each other and creating more and more anger. This isn't this might sound like Headspace moralising here, but she's made a lot of these mistakes over the years and is trying to help a future generation avoid some of these. And perhaps also touch grass, if you can. Find other people. Look outside your own perspective. There are people who are not like you out there, and they can be nice people. Kind people. Meet people. Real people. So that you don't end up just with archetypes. Thing is, guys, we also got to realise something. We can break TwitTok here. There are others out there. Other social media sites out there. And other cultural institutions. People framing devices in ways to suit their own needs and wants and agendas. And so, we've also got to realise something. We are not the protagonists of this film. And there. That brings down TwitTok here. But as I say, there are other forms of social media out there. So we now got to go home. Because now it is time to address the elephant in the room. So you are the elephant in the room. Yes, I am the elephant in the room. Final Rocks to Robots reference. But what does it mean? The bit in the last scene where we found out that we weren't the protagonists of this film. Oh, that just means that you aren't, in a way. You aren't the main characters, which is quite a relief in a way. It's a lot of pressure being a main character. But you see, the main character of this film is the audience. They're the ones who are going to have to navigate the technology of conveying messages throughout the world. Find their way to understand the many nuanced cultures that exist here on Earth, and all the different ways of being someone can be, as well as through their individual quirks and biases, their ideals, their economic interests, and of course, turning theory into practice. And now, let's zoom out a bit. So now we can understand the media we watch with all our ducks in a row. Understand the debates around them. Understand the way we talk to one another, the way we address one another. Meet people who are not like us. To be able to address one another and understand each other. And gain greater understanding and empathy for the fact that we're not all alike. And we will all see things differently. And I'd just like to say to everyone watching, thank you for joining our ducks today. Oh yes, here was a great adventure. Thank you very much. And I hope that I may speak on behalf of all the ducking culturalists as well, who just, well, like their historian variety of ducking detectives. And I say, hey, thank you for joining us today, and hope you can now spread forth into the world. Exactly. Go out and understand people. And whether you enjoyed this or not, whatever your thoughts on the media that we've presented to you here, it was lovely having you here.